My name is Kwekuba, and today I'm luckily in the company of one gentleman from the Africans Rising for Unity, Justice, Peace and Dignity. My guest for today is Mr. Prince Akpan. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Alright, so we delve straight into the conversation. Like I said in the prefix, we're going to talk about the African continent, Ghana, and how as a country, the whole African continent as a continent, we can integrate well, live peacefully, security-wise, and of course find ways of trading amongst ourselves. So Mr. Prince, welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk a bit about your organization and what you stand for. We know just recently you launched a campaign on how to talk about security and business-wise on the African continent. So let's delve a little deeper into your organization.
Okay, so my name is Prince Akpan. I'm the Collaborations and Engagement Officer with Africans Rising for Unity, Peace, Dignity, and Justice. So we've been in existence for the past 6 years, and the organization was basically founded on some few tenets when some prominent or Africans, let me just say Africans, came together in Arusha, Tanzania, and saw that okay, the continent needs like a strong campaign, it's a strong movement to be able to empower other people in organizations to be able to accelerate the way we do things across the continent. So that's how Africans Rising was founded. So we've been operating for the past 6 years, and we've been working with various tenants about how to expand civic space, how to empower women and youth, how to like eradicate corruption. And for the past 6 years we have been actively involved in initiating various programs and doing various things that have been able to at least raise the voice and the campaign about all these certain issues. So for the past 5 years we decided to go back and try to look at what we've been doing and then reassess and see how better that we can actually be able to re-echo what we've been doing. So we put together an assembly which means we have about 40,000 members.
40,000?
Yes, in over 190 countries across the world. And we decided to bring all of them together. We were not able to bring all of them together physically, but what we were able to do was we were able to bring people from at least 50 countries present in Arusha, Tanzania. That was in August. To really look at this founding document of Africans Rising, which is known as the Kilimanjaro Declaration, because Arusha is normally known to be at the foot of the Kilimanjaro mountain. So, I mean, for 3 days, over 350 people, mostly young people, and most of them were women, we brought them together to look at this document, and then they were able to sit down, deliberate, and as an assembly, they were able to adopt a new Kilimanjaro Declaration 2.0.
Right. So you mentioned being in all these countries. It means that quickly let me clarify this. Are your members, the over 40,000 members, are they all Africans? Because you mentioned it's across so many other countries. Are they Africans in the diaspora, or are they purely Africans?
Yeah, so they are Africans. As an organization, we recognize Africans in the diaspora as well. So definitely Africans who are in everywhere across the world. Africans are everywhere.
Right. So
so we recognize them. They signed up to be members after reading the Kilimanjaro Declaration and understanding what it means and how they also want to join forces with us to be able to like re-echo what we want to do.
I want to talk about how people can get you. Do you contact them yourselves? Do you look out for specific kind of people? And if someone is hearing about the organization today, how do they get it?
No, I think it's open to anyone, as long as you sign up to what we know as the Kilimanjaro Declaration, which is available for anyone to read. It's not discriminatory because we try to be very inclusive and involve every young person, every woman, every old person, and even the assembly that we hosted recently had all sorts of people, whether people with disability, people, normal people that, from all over the world were in Arusha. So to sign up or to join, you just have to go to the website, africansrising.org, click on Take Action, so you can take action by joining the movement as a member or as an organization. So we have lots of movement and activists and women right across the continent. So most of them find a very good way to relate with us. And as I said, we just just reach out to people to register. We run various initiatives. We run awards. We run various campaigns that support other activists across the continent. So it is through those campaigns that people get to identify the movement, and then they will also want to be part and contribute their quota to through collaboration or through anything that can help us to advance the cause of this continent.
Right. So 6 years running, right?
Yeah.
What would you say has been the most difficult moment? Well, so far, what it's your highest feats you have achieved that you say that okay, this is rewarding. Whatever we set out to do, this is it.
Yeah, so I think we run a lot of initiatives. One of the key initiatives that we run is called the African Liberation Week, which every 25th May, which is known as African Union Day, that's celebrated across the continent. We do mobilization of people, of individuals, of movements to put together various initiatives in their community or on a national scale and stuff. And we've been able to achieve that, getting over 1,000 people to do activities each year across all the countries on the continent. One of the key campaigns that we've also run is called the Freedom Campaign. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, we set a campaign called the Freedom Campaign, which was basically to advocate to African governments to be able to release prisoners, and we were able to get over 80,000 prisoners released across the continent from various governments. We are not claiming the feat for that, but at least we contributed our voice by sending delegations to African governments, by writing to African governments to at least listen and decongest various prisons across the continent, to at least ensure that the COVID-19 does not spread in the prisons, because we always know that our prisons are very congested. We also ran the Activism Award, which is an empowering tool for various activists. We try to encourage activists not to only identify violence as a means to make their cases heard by government. So we set out the Activism Award as an initiative to be able to empower various activists, movements, and also musicians or artists that are also like using their songs or their talents to do activism. So every single year we award almost 9 people. So that's out of like about over 30 nominees from across the continent, as I said, to be able to award them, and we give them cash prizes to support them with their works. And we have a lot of initiatives. We also have funding supports that we give to activists. Sometimes when activists are on the run, they have to run from their countries to another country. We have like a fund available for them to access where they can be able to see to their daily needs. And then also if they go to a country, and then definitely we have a rep in the country that's can help them with then to like organize support for them locally so they can be able to feel comfortable. We have a lot of activists who are on the run, asylum, all those. Even this summit that we hosted recently, some activists that are on the run in other countries where even refuse to board a plane to come to the conference. So you can see the challenge that they face through. So we're just trying to ensure that this civic space is well protected, to be able to expand it for more people to identify the opportunities, the role or the important it has to play in really shaping our continent and even our governance structural systems, because all the countries in Africa practice different forms of government. So it's a quite difficult work to be able to sit down and put all this together and then try to empower people that can actually hold their governments accountable. And in all, we just want to see that constant development going forward.
Right, earlier I mentioned there was 2 in 1 question. So what has been the most difficult moment in getting all these people together? I mean, someone gave birth to this vision and would want to be able to transcend it across board. People need to buy into it. So what are the difficult moments?
Well, I wouldn't say the difficult moments have not been there, but I think we just see them as opportunities to like really hammer our message. I think in 2019, thereabouts, we sent a delegation to Togo and to do a solidarity mission, which was, Togo has had one president for the past how many years, 15 years or so. So we sent a solidarity mission to Togo, and they all got arrested. They all had their laptops, phones, and everything seized. That was a very difficult moment because we now have to rally a lot of people across the continent to set up like social media on fire to get the Togolese government to release all these individuals, sending even like calling people on the grounds in Togo and people who are in government to mention, because they didn't do anything wrong. They just came to as Africans to listen to what other Africans are going through. We've had the same issue of sending people to Mali. We've had the same issue of sending people to Burkina Faso. So all these things are things that we do once in a while to ensure that at least we're able to understand the situations, political situations, of course, in various countries, and see how we can bring support for people. I think there are other challenges, but I think these are the key ones that we faced over the years.
Right, so now let's talk about the African continent and what you people are trying to do. I know definitely you might have identified some key things that you want to tackle. So I'll bring some of the things I feel are difficult and see how best you, your organization, want to tackle it. Let's talk about crossing borders in Africa. It's not really free. We know that the Europeans, some can travel by trains to other countries and all that, but it's really difficult getting across borders in Africa. What have you seen about this, and what do you think is the solution to it?
Well, I think that is to the campaign that we've been working on, which is a statement or one of the declarations from the assembly that we had recently. And it also came from the pain and the challenges that even participants, who are all Africans, had to face to even come. Some people were denied visa just to come to Tanzania, and they are full-blown Africans. Some people had to pay $50 at the airport, and if you don't pay the $50, you're not allowed. Some people were barred from boarding a plane just because, how do I even say it, they are refugees holding like another country's passport. Some people were barred just because their passport says on 6 months when they had a valid visa to fly. So you can put all this together and realize that if we are talking about one continent, and we all know that the African Union was founded 60 years ago, and the main purpose was what they wanted to become a united continent, one, let's say the United States of Africa.
Right.
And that was to break the borders across Africa. But for 60 years now, that has not been achieved. So that was one of the biggest challenges that we faced during our recent conference, Borderless Africa. We can't say that we want to develop and then try to put borders across. Right now, you can decide to go to Togo, but you can cross from Togo to Ghana because the Togo border has not opened to Ghana. Only Ghana border has opened to Togo. So that is like a big challenge for even people want to have trade, people want to go out for business, people want to go out for entertainment. All those things are unavailable. So we've identified that we need to push for a borderless Africa. Even today, this morning, we had a poll on our social media pages and even the various WhatsApp groups that our members are in, and almost everyone was advocating for borderless Africa, because we don't know the reason why I'm just Kenyan or I'm just Ghanaian. There's Togo here, and for me to cross to Togo, I need to go through the border, pay some amount of money if I'm going to go and do just a normal business of buying just even a shirt or even going to enjoy that beach. So there are lots of other things that probably that we need to work towards. We are also looking at one currency. Why can't the whole continent of Africa adopt just one currency? We have lots of countries on the continent that are using CFA, and then they have to put their reserves in France. And these are sovereign countries with presidents, with ministers of finance, and every time for them to make a financial decision, they have to now sit with France at the other side of the table before they're able to know how much money they have in their treasury and all this kind of stuff. We're also looking at repatriations. We have a lot of things across the continent that have been stolen. When you go to, the United States, when you go to Europe, other countries, you realize that African properties are also bad there. That they've stolen our money, they've stolen our gold, they've stolen our natural resources. How are we going to work together to bring all those things back? And not even bringing all those things back, but how do we advocate for them to see a sense of reason, to see that these people were disadvantaged? Recently, we've seen a lot of people who have brought a lot of campaigns about the Queen's death, about the atrocities that she supervised, that the things that she couldn't even say a no to. So we are considering all those things, and we believe that if the euro can have the euro, and we can stand on the ground, and that's the currency that all countries in Europe should use, then we believe that Africa should also take that bold step. If we don't want to even break our borders, we should be able to advocate for one currency, so that for me, traveling from Ghana to Rwanda, I don't have to change my money to dollars, go to Rwanda and change my money from dollars to Rwandan francs, and then now change it back to dollars when I come to Ghana if I can take my Ghana cedis. So those are the challenges that we are facing. We are hoping that we can be able to resolve them. And it's not going to take just one person. That's the reason we have our members behind us who are very much ready to be able to take up this course. And then very soon you see us launching a very well-structured campaign, which is going to involve various eminent people. Because we know that we cannot just do this just by ourselves. We need to engage various African leaders. And like as I said, about the Borderless Africa, we even have a whole ratification by the African Union on it. It's just waiting for countries on the continent to sign. And they need a minimum of about 15 countries to sign, then they can take that forward. But as at the moment, only 4 or 5 countries have signed that. What is left with the other countries? What are they hiding? What is hindering them from signing just normal paper to give freedom of movement to their people across the continent?
Right. So you mentioned a little on, you touched a little on the African unity. You've seen what Europe have done in having a common currency. So let's talk about what are the things currently do you think that are hindering the African unity? What is the key thing that has made all these other leaders over 60 years not agree for the United Africa?
I think a lot of people ask the corruption. I think a lot of our leaders are also seeking individual interests, and I think we can also state the infiltration of foreign policies. For instance, if maybe the EU or the IMF is giving African money, they are expecting something, so all those things are there as a standing block. Because if Ghana has borrowed $3 billion from the IMF, we have to pay that money back before we can get our country back to take any decision that involves like money or anything. So a lot of things, like we can't really state just one thing, it's a lot of factors. But we believe that the same way Europe was able to come together, the same way the United States of America was able to come together, we can also build such a solid state. So we are just going to be rolling out various campaigns very soon. And then we are not just going to be the reciprocity of wisdom to give everything. So we are going to make it very open for all Africans to contribute their ideas, to put together the various things that they believe we should work on, the things that they see or identify as challenges. As I said, I mentioned corruption, I mentioned personal interest of African leaders, I mentioned the various foreign policies that probably hinder us from like doing things that we want to do on our own. How come Africa, I cannot even travel by train from here to Nigeria? I always have to board a plane, all this kind of stuff. So we believe that we have a long way to go, but if we take a step today, the same way Nkrumah and Co took a step and they were able to achieve independence for their various countries, we can also achieve the setting goals that we have set.
So let's talk about security on the African continent and how almost every time we have a coup d'etat in countries.
Well, I think security has been a very huge concern across the continent. I think that's the reason why most of the countries have their borders locked. They try, recently in Ghana, you had the issues of somebody, a foreign national even coming to the country that nobody even knows about. So, and there are various forms of insecurity across the continent where we have like slavery, human trafficking and all this kind of stuff. And we also have various terrorist groups setting up, there are various camp bases across Nigeria. It's like has for the past few months experienced series of bandits going to churches, killing people, those kind of stuff. But I believe African governments have a lot of work to do. I don't know where our security is becoming porous. I don't know how come people are able to just stand up and do things on their own, and then they don't even have justice. They don't even have to even seek for justice. They don't have any way for them to be prosecuted. A court process has to take a long time for you to even know like if this person has done wrong or right. So I believe the continent needs to come together if we really want to solve our security problems. Then we need to break the borders and bring our minds together. There's a security expert in Ghana, there's a better one in Nigeria, there's a better one in Mali. Why don't we bring all our experts together and develop like a continental solution to solve various security problems across the continent? I believe we have a long way to go. We can be able to achieve it if we are able to put our minds together and do things well.
Again, you mentioned foreign aid hindering our unity because, when you say loan from IMF, let's say, you need to go by their nose. So, would you also say that our dependence on foreign aid has also in a way prevented the African continent standing on its own when it comes to business-wise or economy-wise?
No, I believe we have the brains, we have the resources, but when we are signing up for all these things, it comes with some certain things that you have to, some obligations that you have to meet. And those people are not just donating money for you free of charge. It's people's money that they're using to give to people. So it's a business. They also need to get the return. They also need to make sure that they don't go bankrupt and other stuff. It depends on how the African government tends to use those resources. Because most of the times we realize that when those monies come, we misuse it. We've had a project in Ghana called the Eastern Corridor that has been there for over 10 years. That's not been accomplished. But if it was a foreign money that was put in there, by now you have ensured that that project was completed a long time ago. You can see the N1 and all this, but they're all foreign aids that came to help us to build those things. But because there were people there to inspect and evaluate and do all those tracking, we were able to achieve them. So I think sometimes it's good for us to keep our government in check. As I said, is the various things that the various targets that we need to meet. That at least so that we don't make those who lose their business or something of that sort. But I believe that we have always maintained that the African continent is well resourced to empower itself to meet all these things with all these foreign things. And that I think is because the pressure on African governments tends to push them just look for other means to be able to solve very pertinent or immediate problems that the continent is facing. But I believe that it's not that it doesn't stop us from developing. It does. It contributes in a way. But I believe our leaders also have a lot more responsibility to devise new ways of engaging these people to ensure that there's a win-win. Because most of the time we realize that we lose, they win more, even though they are giving us money as a loan.
Right. So let's talk about empowering women and children. On our continent, we can all attest to it that children are used not in the right way on the labor force. There's been so much talk about it, but it's still ongoing. Women are also very exposed to, let's talk, example, when there are wars, women really suffer. So how do we protect our women and children on the continent from all these other things?
Well, I think we all have a very huge responsibility. If you go to almost every country across the continent, they recognize or they're working with the SDG goals, which also recognizes the empowerment of women and then supporting children. And I think we are all doing our best individually. We just need to put in more checks. If you go to rural areas across the country, you realize that women are just not in the right state to be empowered. We need to do more. We need to not fight basically, but we need to advocate for African government to be able to go ahead and create more policies. If you look at the case in Ghana, for instance, they've not had a minister for gender for a very long time, so which means most of those policies in that area have been left lacking. So we need a lot of more policies, we need a lot of initiatives, we need a lot of financial empowerment, we need a lot of education for all these women to at least get more skills. If you talk about children, we have to make sure that we're able to get them the right form of education so that people are able to, let's say, not be lacking. Recently I was discussing with someone how come a lot of us have been left behind because of technology. Right now, if you take a 10-year-old Ghanaian and go to a 10-year-old European, you realize that the European is more way ahead of the 10-year-old Ghanaian. All these things are things that we need to look at to ensure that we're able to empower the young people, give them the right education. And I'm very impressed that the Ghanaian education system is changing. They are really looking at the syllabus, trying to inculcate how other European countries or American people are actually educating their children. But I wouldn't want to encourage more people to look at these things with a sense of politics, because if we tend to do that, then we're going to deprive a lot of young people, a lot of children, better education. And as we are doing that too, we should also empower our teachers, because if you are redesigning curriculums, then the syllabus, and the teachers themselves don't even know how to even type or don't even know how to do the things in the syllabus, then we'll not be able to achieve what we want to do. So we need to educate our children, but also empower the teachers that are going to help them, because if you go to rural Ghana, most of them are just not happy about their pay, about the resources available to them, about even the the environment is not even inspiring for them to even take a step to inspire these kids to become better people. So children and women are very important people on the continent. We believe that we need to empower them, do more for them, and be on the toes of the government to develop more policies and programs that can support their developments.
Alright, so I'm sure you've listened to the conversation so far. I'm speaking with Mr. Prince Akpa, who is who has given us insights on why the African continent needs to be united. One, why we need to empower women and make sure that there are no borders restricting us, our movement on the African continent. So we'll touch on a few more topics and then we bring it all to the end. So let's touch briefly on so far how beneficial the African Continental Free Trade Agreement has been to the African continent. Do you think that on the long period, over a longer period, it stands, let's say it will stand the test of time? And then currently, do you think that it's being beneficial to the African continent?
Well, seeing how the whole agreement was implemented, seeing how African governments were able to rally, I think the most important thing, or the thing that will hinder this very important policy for the continent from growing or from even actualizing itself will be African governments. We are honored to have the headquarters in Ghana, but even you yourself, what have you seen locally? We've seen various people complaining about the import duty. We've seen people complaining about even how to transport goods from here to Togo because the border is closed. So I think there are lots of challenges, but African governments need to really show up. Take this tax as one of the epitome of development across the continent. If you want to really achieve something that will unite the whole continent, I think it's trade. Because if I can go to Tanzania and buy rice and come to Ghana, I think it will help somebody in Tanzania to also get money. Instead of going to Europe or going to America or going to like Southern America to go to import all those things. So I believe the AfTA, it's a good initiative. It can help to support our aim of having a borderless Africa, but we need to take it serious. We can't continue having very high imports from Europe and other continents and then declining people from our own continent from even moving to various countries. If you're not able to allow those things, I'm not sure the trades will even happen. And even how do we even synchronize the policy, the trading policy of all the countries on the continent? That is another issue, because the trading policy of Togo is different from the trading policy of Benin, Nigeria, and Ghana. And we need to synchronize all those things to ensure that we are able to have very good policies, we have very good agreements that can ensure that we are able to give the best solutions to all the challenges that we have there.
How has the integration been so far? You meeting different people in the same organization, but you know that okay, there are restrictions in this country, traveling from this country to the other country, you need to learn a thing or two before you're able to get there. How has the integration been?
No, I think it's been challenging. One of the key things is language issues. If you are doing a conference where you are the main person everybody walks up to and they start speaking French to you and you never learned French in your schools, or they start speaking Swahili to you, or they start speaking Portuguese, or they start speaking. So those were some of the challenges that we faced during the conference. So we had to employ interpreters during the entire conference to help us to communicate very seamlessly and easy. And even when we even had breakout sessions, we had to make sure that there were interpreters in all those breakouts to ensure that at least we're able to have a good understanding of what is being communicated. Well, I think religious backgrounds too are there. We do a program and then we leave out the time for Muslims to get prayed. So challenges, cultures as well. I mean, there are certain things that you can do in Ghana, but you can do to another person in another country. So there are a lot of challenges, but I think as long as we Africans are resolved that beyond all these barriers, beyond all these challenges, we want to see our continent developed, and I believe that doesn't stop us from going out and doing the work. So that's what we've been doing for the past few years.
Okay. So one of the things in your organization is African Rising for Unity, Peace, Justice, and Dignity. Let's talk about dignity. Do you think we have it as Africans? I know how the West view us, especially some countries on the African continent, notoriously, I would mention the Nigerians. When you say you are from Nigeria, and you are in the West, they view in a certain kind of way that isn't really too good. So, do you think that the dignity in the name, do you think that the African continent, do you think we have it?
We stand for 4 various things. The key 3 ones are dignity, peace, and justice. We believe that to achieve all these things, if we are not united, we can be able to achieve them. Answering your question about whether we have dignity, I believe dignity we all do have. That's one thing that we are trying to advocate for the world to see, that Africa is not an undignified country. We are so dignified that we have just been robbed so many times. We have created various loopholes in our governments. We have created various challenges for our people. That's tend them to do various things that we try to perceive that they're not dignified. But the true case is, I think we're just the people that are hurt by all the atrocities that were meted to us, even to our forefathers. If you look at the slave trade, if you look at everything that was accorded this continent, it just didn't give us that sense of belonging. But as Africans, we believe that we deserve that dignity. We deserve, even if we don't have it, we deserve to work on it. And that's the reason why we've been involved in empowering people. Even if you have to get a dignified job, or if you get a dignified means, or try to do things very right to ensure that we're able to have a very good image that can actually support the entire continent. If we talk about dignity, I believe we'll have various individuals in there who will probably play the bad roles and stuff, but Africa as a continent, we believe that we are quite a dignified people, and there's nothing otherwise to say about it. We are dignified. We might not be having our different struggles, but when it comes to the real definition of dignity, I believe that we cannot take that from the entire continent, because if for everything else we have it, but we've just been at the people at the end where we have been maltreated, we have been stolen, we have been insulted, we have had wars afflicted on us, we've had various petty people just trying to sell people and other stuff. But I believe that the continent, as you also believe, we are dignified people, and I don't think you'll go out and say that you're not a dignified person.
Right. So very soon we come into an end to the conversation. But if there is an area you haven't touched yet and you want viewers to know, you can mention before.
No, I just probably want to encourage all Africans, especially young people and women, that we all have like various important roles to play to ensure this country or this continent develops. We might not be on the front level, we might not be on the front to be able to like advocate, but even within our individual communities, we can play various important roles. And Africans Rising as an organization is always ready to put a highlight to all those things that we do. Any form of support, we can be able to assist with all those things. So if you want to join us as a member, as I said earlier on, just go to africansrising.org, just go to the website, get yourself updated very well. If you want to join, there's a tab called Join Us or Take Action. Click on any of them, and then you can be able to have access to the membership form. It's just filling in your name, your email address, or phone contacts, and then that's all. You don't need to submit any other information, so that we can be in touch with you and know you better. And then, yeah.
So it's been an interesting conversation with myself, Bukuba, and Prince Abba from Africa's Rising for Unity, Peace. Unity, justice, peace, and dignity. I hope you learned a thing or two. Until next time we meet again, my name is Bukuba. Thank you for watching us.